Many have agreed that Nintendo has made some very perplexing decisions lately. Granted, I'm sure every big business does things that are inconsiderate towards the average person, but a company as big as the Big N seems to face particular scrutiny in this regard, and for understandable reasons. Towards their fans, they've come off as blasé at best and hostile at worst, and towards their general consumers, they've been very exploitative. Emblematic of all this is a certain Mario collection that has confused and frustrated many with its limited availability and has been rightfully considered to be a cheap cash grab at Mario's popularity. I'm talking, of course, about the Mario 7-in-1 collection for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Yeah, of course you don't know what I'm talking about, it was just that mishandled. With this video, I've decided to make a retrospective look at what this collection succeeded and failed at, and why it isn't of the quality standard we should be expecting from Nintendo. With Mario's untimely death having occurred yesterday, consider this an obituary for Nintendo's mascot. The Mario 7-in-1 collection is, as the name suggests, a collection of 7 NES Mario games on one cartridge. At first, it may seem impressive that 7 entire games were stored on a cartridge that would normally only store one NES game, and to be honest, it is. But unfortunately, when you get past that, some of the cracks start to show. The first thing to note is the list of games they decided were worth including. We have Mario 3, 5, Missing, 10, 11, 14, and 7. There are so many glaring omissions here that it's not even funny. Did Nintendo seriously just forget that Mario 4 or 6 or 8 or 9 exist? Need I mention Mario 12 or 13? Oh, but those are so obscure, no one really cares about them, right? I mean, I guess, but I don't see people talking about Mario 14 that much, so I don't understand why Nintendo decided on that one. But what about their more popular works, like Mario 1 or 2? Did they really think Lost Levels was too hard for us American gamers? Need I even mention Mario's Time Machine? But of course I can't criticize any of that because I should be grateful that I have 7 entire games on one convenient collection. Is it really that convenient though? I mean, Nintendo had the brilliant idea of releasing this for a console that's over 30 years old. Granted, it did sell well back in the day, so for all I know, plenty of people still own it. However, the cartridge itself is stupidly hard to find now that Nintendo's discontinued it. The closest I could find is this stupid bootleg version that includes games like Super Mario 16. Give me a break, we all know there weren't 16 main Mario games on the NES. To be fair, that version is only $35, which isn't too ridiculous and might be more worth your money than this. But the price and the console it was released on don't really matter, as long as the game collection itself is solid, right? Well, let's briefly look at the individual games and see how well they were ported over. First up on the collection is Super Mario Bros. 3. I mean, what can I say? It's one of the most popular games on the NES and one of the most beloved Mario games ever. All's well and good, right? Well, not completely. What's worth noting is that the version of this game in the collection is the Japanese version, which has a couple differences from the versions later released in other regions. One is the fact that if you get hit while you have a flower or leaf or suit or whatever kind of power-up on you, you turn into Small Mario instead of Big Mario like in other versions of the game. I can't say I'm a fan of this change. As I've expressed before, I have a very difficult time with games that are so unforgiving of player error that you die in 1 or 2 hits. I know that's like, no, duh, but this Japan exclusive nuance makes the game a bit more unforgiving. If you think the original is too easy, which I don't, maybe this is right up your alley, but this probably isn't how I'm going to play Mario 3 in the future. With that said, it is still Mario 3 all the same, and I managed to overcome the challenge for this video, so it's still a good time. Second in the collection is Super Bros. 5. As we all know at this point, Nintendo got really lazy with this 5th entry and just made Super Mario Bros. 2 again, which was already just a reskin of Doki Doki Panic. The port job to this collection is also pretty shoddy. I mean, they keep spelling Mario's name as Mario in the intro sequence, and the music is slightly higher pitched and sped up for some reason. Other than that, it's Super Mario Bros. 2, a bit of a weird game. You get to play as Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Princess Toadstool, who all have different attributes. This is a pretty neat feature that I wish was in more Mario games. You attack enemies by throwing vegetables or even other enemies at them, which makes this game fairly unique for its time. The game also shapes up its level level structure more than Mario 1 and even Mario 3 at points. Unfortunately, unlike Mario 3, this game abides by a limited continues principle, and you only get around 3 tries per continue. Further compounding this is how difficult it is to amass extra lives. They are rarely found in the actual stages, and the most common way to get them is by finding coins in the mirror world and using them to play a slot machine game. Essentially, getting extra lives is highly luck-based. The core game experience is playable and enjoyable enough, but much like with Mario 3, there are better ways to play this game. Third up is Mario is Missing. Apparently this was more worth putting on the cart than Super Mario Bros. 1 or Lost Levels. Anyways, Mario is Missing is one of the many educational Mario games released on various consoles in the early to mid 1990s by the software Toolworks. I can't necessarily fault the port job in any way for this game, but that doesn't really matter when the game itself isn't particularly good. It basically follows the same structure for 14 towns. Enter the town, talk to 1 or 2 people to figure out where you are, bring Yoshi there, defeat the 3 Koopa Troopas, steal their stuff, return them to their respective locations, answer questions for verification, leave. I suppose that this is an educational title first and foremost, but many of the security questions can be guessed on with little consequence. Maybe failing the questions reduces the score, which in this game is represented by money, but I'm not sure this is actually the case, and it's not a great incentive for an educational game unless there's some kind of leaderboard. At least I'm able to understand what they're saying since they actually bothered to provide an English translation. Overall, not a game I would have included on the collection if I was in charge, but hey, there's still 4 more games left to talk about, right? Next up is Mario 10, also known as Kung Fu Mari. Amidst all of Mario's other careers that he's had over the years, he also seems to be training in martial arts. He seems to be doing pretty good so far, learning how to punch the guts out of frogs, curl up into a ball and hover in midair, and even shoot energy from the palms of his hands. Despite these moves being fun to use, this game has issues when it comes to controlling Mario, particularly when it comes to the midair controls. If you're moving forward in the air, you can't come to a standstill until you hit the ground. You have to either coast forward or snap to the opposite direction. This isn't the worst thing ever, considering how there are practically no instant kill hazards and you can take plenty of hits. If you run out of health though, you're immediately booted back to the title screen. You're allowed to continue, but similar to Mario 5, only a limited number of times. Being a kung fu centric platformer, this game does have a strong aura of Asian culture, from the world map to the level theming to the boss fights. Despite this, the text is in English. Well, what little text there is. All I can recall is start and continue, which makes Mario 3's text being largely Japanese even more bizarre. All told, Mario 10 isn't a bad inclusion, but it feels pretty different from the last few games. Then there's Mario 11, also known as Mario Adventures. Similar to Mario 3, there's a world map that seems to communicate to me that this game is fairly large. Several games after Super Mario World, Mario decided to ditch Yoshi and hang out with a different gang of dinosaurs. He also comes equipped with other power-ups like fireballs that look like rocks. You start the game with a staggeringly high supply of both, over 30 of each item in your inventory, in addition to the stuff you're likely to pick up within the levels. The level design, though, didn't necessarily impress me, feeling incredibly straightforward with scattered enemies. There also seems to be some kind of stamina mechanic where you have to collect coins to refill this meter and instantly die if it runs out. I wasn't entirely sure how that worked. There's probably some statement about the importance of reading instruction manuals you could make, but there is no instruction manual for this collection, which is yet another issue. Back to Mario 11. Honestly, I played this game for about 10 or 15 minutes and had no idea what was going on, so I'm probably being unfair to this game. In that case, I apologize if you happen to like Mario 11, but the first impressions I got weren't outstanding. With that out of the way, we have Super Mario 14, which was supposedly developed by Wario. Personally, I really doubt that. I mean, could you really imagine someone like Wario going into the game development industry? Oh, right. Apparently, Wario's idea for a game involves Mario using a staff to fight evil. To be fair, the staff does have plenty of uses in the game, be it shooting rows of fireballs, kicking off of walls, spinning around in place, and pogo. Okay, what's going on with his head? The moveset is admirable for a third generation platformer, and honestly reminds me of the diversity of moves you can pull off in Mario 64. Not many NES games went for something like this. As for the level design itself, the only noteworthy thing I can say is that there's a surprisingly high emphasis on placing keys into doors. Other than that, I swear there's something wrong with the frame rate. It seems like it's not quite 60 frames per second, which just looks wrong for an NES title. Also, just like Mario 3, the text is all in Japanese, so I can't even tell if there are limited continues or not. It just feels sloppy. Finally, we have Mario 7, also known as Seven Granddad of all things. Seems like Mario actually antagonized dinosaurs before Mario 11, as this game involves a lot of whacking dinosaurs with a club, except that the goal of the game is to rescue these two dinosaur pets, and you also fight humans and human skeletons. You know what, I don't know where I was going with that. Actually, on the topic of the goal of this game, all the text here is in English, so I once again don't understand why the same doesn't apply to some of the other games in this collection. The story itself involves the Flintstones and Gazoo and a time machine that needs to be put together. I'm not entirely sure how Mario is involved, to be honest. The gameplay is pretty standard platformer fare, as you probably expect at this point, but for some reason Mario is incorrectly labeled as Fred. Also similar to Mario 14, Mario's head just changes in a couple instances, like the overworld and the basketball minigame. Not much more I can add here. On the whole, the quality of the games varies pretty wildly. What other cart has both Super Mario Bros. 3 and Mario's Missing right next to each other? But I suppose that's subjective. Maybe you don't care for Mario being a kung fu master, maybe you can't get enough of it. The port jobs, however, are less excusable. As I've dissected, there are massive inconsistencies in the used region, as Mario 3 and 14 seem to be in Japanese, while Mario's Missing and 7 are in English. There are also text issues like calling Mario Mario or even Mari. It's almost as if they had half the time that they needed to properly localize the games. The connective tissue of the collection is also pretty weak, as the only way to return to the main menu is to reset the console, and the menu assets are basically all just ripped out of Super Mario Bros. 3. There are also no additional extras like artwork or music players either. Was it too much to ask of this NES collection? I don't think it would be. Now, despite every negative thing I've said, I would be lying if I said I didn't enjoy playing most of the games on this collection, but that more so speaks to how solid Mario games are at their core. Whether he was picking up vegetables or whacking dinosaurs with a stick, the gameplay of any Mario game in the NES era could be counted on for a good time. It just makes it more of a shame that this collection is so lackluster. From the bizarre game selection and lack of accessibility to the audio-visual quirks and discordant localization, this doesn't even feel like an official release, but no, this was an actual Nintendo product, I think. For years, Mario was counted on for consistently good games, and consistently good aren't the words I'd use to describe this collection. Sadly, now that Nintendo has killed Mario, this will be the note he'll be left on forever. Happy 35th, Mario. I wish you could have done even better for the 40th.